mixing as you produce music, mixing as you go, as they say. Here's my opinion on this. I've tried both methods. I've tried mixing absolutely nothing while I produce my song. And I've tried mixing everything while I've produced my song. And I've tried kind of mixing as I produce my song. And I've tried really mostly mixing as I produce my song. Personally, I think some mixing is required when you're producing your song. Here's why. The goal when you're producing is to be as efficient as possible, is to keep the creative flow going as long as possible, and not to be hampered by any mixing. Inspiration, that really is the key when producing. Inspiration, keeping the inspiration going. If the inspiration isn't there, if you're bored of the song, you don't like where it's going, you're never going to finish the song. So that's the reason for not going full on mixing while you're producing the track. Now, this is not to say that you shouldn't do either. This is just, again, my opinion on it from what I've found. But mixing a little bit goes a long way. What I usually do is do basic EQing, volume, some basic effects, some basic compression, and that's really it. That's what I mean when I say I mix as I go. I do a little bit. It's not really intensive mixing. I do the broad strokes of mixing. Now, this comes with ear training. If you don't quite know it sounds good, if you don't quite know where specific instruments should go in the mix, then this will be a little bit harder. So this does come with time and experience with mixing. Again, the goal when producing is to be as creative as possible, to keep the inspiration going and not be hampered by anything else. And when I mix, when I do these broad strokes mixing, it doesn't take me very long, and I kind of know what I'm already going to do when I put in the sounds. So I'm not taxing my brain a lot. I'm not taxing my focusing, I'm not focusing intensely on it. So it's really, really easy to do. So I would focus on the broad strokes. Why? Because this helps paint a clearer picture of what the song is actually going to sound like. Of course, a mixed song is always going to sound better than an unmixed song. And having these broad strokes mixed together will help you to better decide what instrument should go where, what instruments you should add, and having just, a better understanding of where the song is going with these broad strokes that are already mixed. If certain sounds are way too loud and way too un-EQ'd and poking out in the mix, your ears might pick up that, oh, okay, this frequency section is pretty full. I don't need to add another sound to add more interest. It's fine. And then when you go back and adjust all the volumes and do the EQing, you're like, oh, there's a whole sound. It's like it's too weak in the mix. Like there needs to be more interest. There needs to be more frequencies in there. I could have added another. I could have, of course, added another layer, in the mixing process. But another instrument could have worked well. So again, it's just kind of what I feel lends itself to the most creativity, because I can get a little bit better understanding of how the mix is going to sound, what's going to be in the mix, how it's going to sound more mixed, I would say. So I think broad strokes mixing, having general ideas of where the instrument should go in the volume-wise, some EQ cutting, some EQ boosting on certain sounds, some very basic light compression if sounds are way too out of control, and some basic reverb effects, delay effects if you know you're going to put them in there. Again, this just helps set the foundation for the track. Also for mixing, when you go back to mix the song, it can be a nightmare if nothing is mixed. It can be an absolute nightmare because you have to adjust everything heavily, and it changes the perception of the track, your perception of the track. When you have to do a really intensive mixing, when you have to change volumes by 10 decibels, your main instruments by 10 decibels and stuff like that, and it can get kind of, it just changes your perception, and the song won't sound the same. And it might not sound good to you. It might sound good when everything was just, kind of out of balance, and it just could kind of fall apart in that respect. And that's really just kind of mixing as you go. That's the point. I think it kind of mixing as you go helps keep the creativity alive, helps make the mixing process easier, and it helps you make the best creative decisions, in my opinion. And of course, again, that'll have to go with some experience with mixing to understand, what broad strokes you want to do to specific sounds in the mix. That way you don't have to, again, spend a lot of time mixing and taking away from the creative process.